Hi, welcome to Chapter 19, Pricing Concepts. This is Mamurjan Rahimov at Webster University in Tashkent. This video recording has become possible thanks to generous support by UNESCO UniTwin Open Courseware Open Education Resource Initiative. These are today's learning objectives. 1. Summarize why price is important to the marketing mix. 2. Compare price competition with non-price competition. 3. Explain the importance of demand curves and the price elasticity of demand. 4. Describe the relationships among demand, costs, and profits. 5. Describe 8 key factors that may influence marketers' pricing decisions. And 6. Identify 7 methods companies can use to price products for business markets. So we're going to look at both B2B and B2C pricing approaches. The purpose of marketing is to facilitate satisfying exchange relationships between buyer and seller. So price in this context is the value paid for a product in a marketing exchange. Another alternative for payments is barter, which is the oldest form of exchange. Corporate barter still occurs and amounts to an estimated 12 billion US dollars in the United States. In marketing mix, price is a key element because it relates directly to the generation of total revenue. So we're going to look through some formulas and economic calculations today. So this is a profit formula. Profit equals total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue can be calculated as price times quantity sold. Because price has psychological impact on customers, marketers can also use it symbolically. So, for example, high prices signal high quality. Low prices, they emphasize a bargain, a value. Due to increasing competition in world markets, there is increasing price competition. What is price competition? It's emphasizing price as an issue and matching or beating competitors' prices. To compete effectively on price basis, a firm should be the low-cost seller. So the firm should be able to control its costs at operational level. So it's not just marketing's job. The firm must be willing and able to change prices frequently to meet competitors' pricing. And this eventually may lead to price wars. In the price wars, the weakest players eventually are pushed out of the market. They go bankrupt. In marketing, however, we first concentrate on non-price competition, because to lower price, you don't need to know so much of a business. You don't have to know marketing. You just lower prices. If it's not selling at $10, you lower it to $9, and if it's not selling to $9, you lower to $7, and so forth. But non-price competition requires more knowledge of marketing, better understanding of customers and the marketing environment. So non-price competition is emphasizing factors other than price to distinguish a product from competing brands. A major advantage is a firm can build customer loyalty. Only effective if a company can distinguish its brand from others. So for a non-price competition, you have to build your brand. You have to strengthen your brand. Buyers are able to perceive these distinguishing characteristics and view them as important. The company promotes the brand to establish its superiority. Take a look at this advertising of Volvo. I think most of you know that Volvo positions itself as the safest car in the world, right? So here also they are promoting their car on non-price factors such as safety. Now we're going to turn to some economic aspects of pricing. In the United States, I taught foundations of economics for 3 years, and for every group, every quarter, I taught these concepts, and these were the first things that I would cover, and the very basic things that I would cover in Introduction to Economics. So demand curve, a graph of quantity of products expected to be sold at various prices if other factors remain constant. There is a Latin term for that, ceteris paribus. Everything else held constant. So demand depends on other factors in the marketing mix, including promotion and distribution. An improvement in any of these factors may cause a shift to demand curve D2. So D1 is initial demand curve, D2 is the new demand curve. So let's take a look at this graph. So the vertical axis represents price. It could be $1, $2, $3, and so on. And the quantity, one quantity, one piece, two piece, three piece, and so on. So this is a very generic description of the demand curve. So horizontal axis represents quantity, vertical axis represents price. And then usually this is a sample demand curve, and depending on many factors, demand curves may have different shapes. But this is, let's say, for most fast-moving consumer goods, this is approximately how demand curve looks. It's a downward sloping curve. So you see downward sloping curve. So this is a demand curve. And then let's say you increase advertising spending and create favorable image for your products. So the demand curve shifts to the right. Okay. Many types of demand exist, and not all conform to the classic demand curve that we just seen. So prestige products tend to sell better at high prices, partly because the expense makes the buyers feel elite. They feel they're special. For a certain price range, demand goes up for these kind of products, prestige products. And after a certain point, raising the price backfires and demand goes down. So there is a limit to how high you can increase the price. So let's take a look at this graph here. So as you see here, at P1, quantity 1 is here. Okay, so let's say at $1, you are selling 3 units. At $2, you're selling 4 units. Okay, but then if you continue increasing price, let's say you go to $5, the quantity demanded goes down, so you're selling as many goods as in 3. Okay, because take a look at this, some watches, this Rolex watches. So this is real authentic Rolex. This is replica. In United States, replicas are very popular because just like it's Rolex is an example of a prestige watch. All right, so when the price keeps increasing, quantity demanded is going down. That means people are switching. Possibly one of the reasons people are stopping. Some people they stop buying Rolex watches, or they switch to uh, competitors, for example, Patek Philippe or some other Swiss makers, or they could actually switch to replicas, which are very hard to differentiate from the real. Right? I'm not talking about Chinese copycats. I'm talking about replicas which are, made to the highest standard, but at a lower cost. There is a huge market in the United States for replica watches, and it's not. And actually, these replica watches, if you read The Economist and other business and financial magazines, they advertise them. So uh, it means that there are a lot of customers, and it's official market. It's not black market, and they acknowledge that this is a replica watch. Okay. Now, demand fluctuations. This means the shift in demand to the left or to the right. All right. So, as marketers, we are interested in shift of the demand curve to the right for our product. Okay, and we try to use different ways to do that. Some of them are mentioned here. So we try to create a need for the product among more potential customers. We make them buy the product more frequently, like disinfectants these days during the lockdowns and self-isolation and quarantine measures throughout the world. Variations in the effectiveness of other marketing mix variables. So you remember, besides price, in the 4Ps, the marketing mix is 4Ps: product, place, price, promotion. So we're talking about price, but uh, other marketing mix variables can affect the demand. For example, uh, better advertising, we already talked about, or improvement in the product. Uh, Possibly as a part of the product, improvement in the packaging. Packaging is more appealing, more functional. So take a look at this Coca-Cola fridge pack. This is very popular in the United States. In Uzbekistan, this hasn't been introduced yet because the whole concept of selling soft drinks in cans is relatively new. Until recently, we could buy Coke or Pepsi only in plastic or glass. So can is relatively new packaging in Uzbekistan, but in the United States, this is one of the most popular forms of consumption packaging. So Coca-Cola, many years ago, they introduced Coca-Cola fridge pack, which saves time, so you don't have to keep the refrigerator door open and then put your Coke in the fridge one by one. Also, it saves space because it all stays compact, in the refrigerator, and the fridge pack doubles as a dispenser. So you see, it's easy to open. One side is easy to open, and then you can just grab Coca-Cola from there. So this increased the sales of Coca-Cola considerably. So they were able to sell more. It's actually double-digit increase in sales thanks to better packaging, not better promotion, not better taste, not lower price, but better packaging. So always try to look for ways to increase sales, increase the demand by looking at non-price factors. So what were other things? The presence of substitutes also, for example, if there is increasing number of substitutes, the demand for your particular brand may decrease, which means shift to the left. And dynamic environment, changes in the environment. Look at what's happening now. Soft drinks and the demand for many other fast-moving consumer goods decreased considerably because of current quarantine measures in place worldwide. Changes in the demand for some products is predictable, but with other products, demand may be less predictable. For example, restaurants, education centers, they were great business in Uzbekistan just a couple months ago, and nobody could predict that things would change so much. Some organizations anticipate demand fluctuations and develop new products and prices to meet customers' changing needs. This is the high time for tourism in Uzbekistan and elsewhere, but because of the coronavirus scare worldwide, tourism has become one of the hardest hit industries, which was very hard to predict a few months ago. Uzbekistan also heavily depends on tourism, especially certain regions like Khorazm, Samarkand, Bukhara, and they lost hundreds of millions of dollars because of the coronavirus campaign. Now, when pricing, you have to be familiar with the concept of price elasticity. It's a measure of the sensitivity of demand to changes in price. In other words, this is an example of inelastic demand on the demand graph. You see, as the price increases from P1 to P2, quantity demanded decreases very small decrease in quantity demanded from Q1 to Q2. All right, but when it comes to, let's say, recreational vehicles, RVs, rental cars, and vans, when the price goes from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded is going from Q1 to Q2, so there's a very big drop in quantity demanded because of change in price. So that's why we say, let's say this electricity, we have to use it anyway. We need it every day. So yes, we try to save more when the prices go up, but we cannot turn it off completely. So the quantity demanded drops quite slightly compared to quantity demanded drop in recreational vehicles. So gasoline is another example of products which have inelastic demand. So here's a formula for calculating the price elasticity of demand. Percentage change in quantity demanded and the percentage change in price. All right. Why do we need this? For example, imagine Zafar Hashimov in Korzinka supermarket. So because of inflation, he has to increase prices for the products in his supermarket, but he has more than 10,000 varieties of products. So he wouldn't increase all the prices at the same time by the same percentage, because he increases prices of products with inelastic demand more than the products which have elastic demand. That's why we need this kind of considerations. Okay, let's pause it here, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about demand, cost, and profit relationships.